Now, the Vue CLI is not a mandatory tool. Let me really make that clear. It's not the same as the Vue framework, which we've been using thus far. It's just an additional tool also managed by the team behind Vue. It simply helps us create projects with a certain configuration and with certain built-in tools that give us all those nice features I was talking about in the last lectures. So it helps us create projects and manage projects that allow us to build more realistic, bigger applications. So how do we use the Vue CLI? Well, the Vue CLI under the hood uses certain tools which you will need. The most important tool which you will need is Node.js. Node.js is a JavaScript runtime which in the end allows you to run JavaScript code outside of the browser as well. You could use Node.js to write server-side code with JavaScript, but that's not what we're going to do in this course. This is not a Node.js course. So you will not learn Node.js here, and you will also not need to write any Node.js code. No worries. But we need Node.js installed on our machine because the Vue CLI uses it under the hood. So make sure you visit nodejs.org and simply download the latest version there. This gives you an installer which you can download, and you can simply walk through that installer and confirm all the defaults. It's available for all operating systems, and it's really a straightforward installation process. You don't need any special settings or setup or anything like that. Simply walk through that installer and install Node.js on your system, no matter if you're using Windows or macOS or Linux. Now, once this finished, you got Node.js installed, which the Vue CLI needs, but you also got this npm tool installed here. That's another tool that comes together with Node.js. npm stands for Node Package Manager, and that's a tool which we're also going to use, for example, to install the Vue CLI on our system, but also later to install extra packages into our project which we might need. I'll come back to that when we need it. So let's finish that installation, and let's now see how we install the Vue CLI. For that, we can go to installation in the official docs, but it's really straightforward. You need Node installed, as I mentioned, and then once you did install Node, you can run this command here in the terminal or command prompt of your system. So open up your system terminal or command prompt. Every operating system comes with one. So here I'm in the macOS terminal. On Windows, you would use the Windows command prompt. And in there, run npm install -g @vue/CLI. Like this. On Mac and Linux, you might need to add sudo in front of this to get the right permissions. On Windows, this is not required and actually also will not work. So on Windows, it's just npm install -g @vue/CLI. Now, once you entered this command, hit enter, maybe enter your password if you're prompted for it. And now this will go ahead and install this Vue CLI tool globally on your system so that we can thereafter use it to generate Vue projects with it. So let's wait for this installation to finish. Now, once it finished successfully, which you can tell by the fact that you see a message like this towards the end of this output, once it finished, you can find a place on your system where you want to create a new project. And with find a place, I mean here in the terminal. You can navigate around with the cd command. In case you're not sure about that, make sure you pick up some terminal or command prompt basics. Now, once you found that place on your system, so the path on your system where you want to create a new project, for me it's in the Udemy folder somewhere on my system, you can run Vue create to create a new project folder and a new Vue app therefore in that place, and then pick any name of your choice. I'm going to name this Vue first app with dashes between the words, but the name is up to you. It should be a name without any white space though. So it should be one word in the end where you can separate words with dashes if you want to. Hit enter thereafter, and you will be prompted a couple of questions. Now, the exact look of this menu might change, but here I'm currently asked whether I want to use the default settings for Vue 2, the default settings for Vue 3. Now, most likely, Vue 3 will be the first choice in the future. I'm recording this at a point of time where Vue 3 is not fully final yet, is not really released yet. Hence, for me, it's just the second option here. Or you can manually select features you want to have in your new project. Now, I'm going to go with that. And now here you got various features which you can configure into your project. Now, if you don't know what all these things are, you can really just go with the default. Otherwise, you can add them as needed. There are a couple of features in here, like router and Vuex, which we'll learn about throughout this course. So for the moment, we can really go with the defaults here and simply hit enter to confirm them. Choose the Vue version if you are prompted for it. I'll go with 3.x, which this course is about, the latest version of Vue, and you should choose that as well if you're prompted. And here, with the ESLint settings, I'll go with that ESLint with error prevention only strategy. Confirm the default here as well if you're asked for it, and you can go with the first option here in this last question as well. Again, the exact options might differ, but the process should always be close to what you're seeing here. Now, we could save our picked settings here as a default or as a preset for future projects, but I'm going to pick no here and not save it as a preset. And now this will create a new folder with the name we chose initially, with a Vue project inside of it, but now with a Vue project that has certain extra features to make our life as a Vue developer easier. No worries though, you'll still write Vue code as you learned it over the last modules. It'll just be a nicer experience. So let's wait for the Vue project generation to finish. And once this does finish, you see two commands here which you can execute in order to see your generated Vue app in action, because you get a little dummy app in that newly created folder. So we can first of all cd, so navigate into this newly created folder, and then run npm run serve, which executes a predefined script to basically spin up such a testing web development server I was talking about, which will then host this default dummy app we got here. And you can view that app in your browser under this address now, which now uses the HTTP instead of the file protocol, which, as mentioned in an earlier lecture, is exactly what we want. So let's copy that address and enter this in the browser, and you should see something like this. Now, the exact screen you're seeing here might change over time. This doesn't matter too much because we're going to write our own app anyways, but you should see something on the screen, which proves that your development server is up and running and that some Vue project was generated. Now let's explore what was generated, which features we have available here, and which extra settings and tweaks we might need to do.